Welcome to Top Talk TV once again, and I am your regular host, Daniel Odeyemi. I had the rare privilege of meeting Dr. Victor Olunloyo, former civilian governor of Old Oyo State, an academic by excellence, an engineer, and astute politician. As an outstanding orator that he is, Dr. VOS Olunloyo, as he is fondly called, bared his mind on the state of the nation, his role in Ladoja's fight to reclaim his mandate, and several other issues. You will enjoy this interview. And by the way, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks a million.
I'm afraid it's a very gloomy one. The present state of Nigeria is a very gloomy and disheartening one. I'm an avid reader of some of Nigerian newspapers, and the picture that is painted of the nation is very gloomy. There are very important and respected people who have spoken on this matter. Reverend Coker, our very respected Commonwealth Secretary, Anyaoku, people like Governor Otom, people, in all walks of life, have been wondering what the country has become. It's a very great pity that when Danjuma faced Theophilus Danjuma, Lieutenant General, and who has seen the real war, people like that, Alani Akinrade, Lieutenant General, Sandhurst, trained, when they are apathetic, or rather they are sad about the situation in the country. Ponzi, Domkat Bali, Lieutenant General, one of the best shots Nigeria has ever produced. Lieutenant General also. These people, Obasanjo has spoken. So many people have spoken. And it's a very sad situation in the country. Many natural rulers have spoken that the youth, it's high time they are perhaps given the chance, but the answers debacle, the situation in the country is such that one is very sad. One is very sad, security-wise, economy-wise, is very, very, very sad. And I must say that we have to save this country. The Financial Times of London has said that this country is almost a failed state, but we can save it. We can save it. I mean, Wole Soyinka has spoken. Nobody, needs to speak more than what he has said. Very many people have spoken about the rot that is in the country. The corruption, the violence, the lack of security, natural rulers, bank managers, they have spoken, and men of the clergy, men of religion, both Islamic and Christian, have spoken. Something is wrong. Whether it is by changing the system of government, I don't think anything is wrong with the country. Things are wrong with us, we Nigerians, not Nigeria. It's not Nigeria that something is wrong with. It's we Nigerians that something is wrong with. There is a pandemic, But that is, I mean, that is global. That is global. We cannot blame our situation. Our situation has been the same before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and goodness save us, it may be the same after the pandemic. So it's very sad. The Nigeria of previous years was a much better country. People were about to soil Gawan's name, General Gawan, saying that he looted some bank and something, which is absolutely an arrant nonsense. You know, if somebody could hold the country together for 9 years to the date, and then you must praise him. He's not like Mobutu in Congo or Zimbabwe's Mugabe or something like that. He's not a leader of that ilk, of that sort. So they are running down even people who have made great achievements and who are content to stay off politics and concentrate on praying for the country. Praying for the country. I think corruption has really increased in geometrical progression. It has escalated. Corruption has escalated, and the currency has been flogged to death. And so I don't think there's much to show. There's much to show and to boast about. We have a lot to be ashamed of. We have a lot to be ashamed of, and the cost of governance is one of the sources of shame. And the type of governance, double governance. Talking of having legislators with oversight functions, legislators with executive activities, and they are giving money to spend in their constituency allowance, almost clothing allowance, and everything allowance. Is very ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. I don't see what this period can boast of compared with the earlier periods in the history of this country, because the present administration at the national level has made the First Republic look like saints. They make them look like saints. We don't have only oil. We are exploiting only oil. I think Kayode Fayemi was in solid minerals. We have solid minerals. We have agriculture. Agriculture will always be important. People will always want to eat. Food is always important. You can't eat oil. You can't eat petroleum. You can't even eat palm oil alone. In the First Republic and the colonial days, you have oil palm in the east, plywood and cocoa in the west, granules in the north, granule pyramids and so on, hides and skins. And that's all. And they work very hard. Security is too bad. The Zambisa forest episode is over how many years now? The Chibok girls, and then there was another one, Dapchi, and then Kankara. Even they had the audacity to go to the head of state, Katsina State, where, which is a historical state. Daura is a historical town like Ile-Ife is to the Yorubas, as a spiritual, point of migration to other parts. And the Sultan of Sokoto, the head of the Islamic religion in Nigeria, is saying that the North is the most unsafe place on earth. These are very sad things. And he knows what he's talking about. He's a well-trained, so he's a soldier. Many of our natural rulers are trained soldiers. So is the Alake of Abeokuta. And those who are not trained formally, they are trained informally. The Alaafin of Oyo knows a lot about the history of the Yorubas and warfare. So, we have a very, very competent people in some places and people who are tired in some other places. The solution probably will be having state police, which we had before. Before, we had local government police, state police, and federal police. Maybe we should go back to the parliamentary system of government. We had in Ibadan, for example, Accordas, who are local government police. We had local government police also. We had local government police. And I remember Mr. Ajani was in the local government police. And then we had Nigerian police at Yaganku and Ele. So we had police at the three levels. We had customary court, high court, Supreme Court. We had courts at the three levels. I don't know what training they have, and I don't know what strategies they're employing. I don't know, but all I know is that they're probably in the wrong locations. Amatekun is on the roads. The people they are looking for are using the bushes, either the herdsmen or home-trained kidnappers. It's not the herdsmen who are doing all the kidnapping and the killing. There's homeland terrorism. Yorubas kidnapping Yorubas, as used to happen in the days of the slave trade. Amatekun is supposed to be everywhere, and they don't need to make themselves so obvious. Like they should be like plainclothes policemen. There should be an arm of the Amatekun. They should have uniformed ones. They should have non-uniformed ones. They should have non-uniformed ones. They should have some on motorcycles, some on bicycles, like the Vietnamese when they were fighting the Americans in the Vietnam War. The Viet Cong were partly on bicycles, and they defeated the Americans with their B-52s and the orange saturation bombing and so on. They lost the Vietnam War. And General Giap, was superior to all the American, apart from the Pearl Harbor victory of the Japanese over the Americans. The Americans have only been humiliated in as much as they have in Vietnam. Pearl Harbor, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. They will never forget those places where they use maximum force, and then their opponents are using guerrilla tactics. So it's not conventional warfare that Amatekun should concentrate upon. Essentially masterminded by my brother Obasanjo, and they were biased. But that doesn't mean that they are not entitled to their own opinion of Ladoja. Whatever their opinion of Ladoja was, my own take is that they did it wrongly. They did it wrongly and fraudulently. And I am proud to inform you that I was one of those who engineered his return by giving him intellectual backing, by convincing him that he could fight it, by writing a writ of summons. Even though I'm a homemade lawyer, I succeeded in writing him a writ. I constructed a writ of summons in 8 hours, gave it to him, asked him to give it to his son to check up. He took it to Kaduna, got his son, checked it up. It too was taken to the court, and first it won the case for him. Yes, yes. The same thing I did. Obasanjo came to me this time and said he wanted the problem of the vice, what do you call it? The acting president. He wanted the problem solved. Well, he came to Ibadan, he chartered aero contractors and came to me. I said, well, I can't solve the problem. He said I could solve it. I wrote him a paper. He took it to Abuja. He solved the problem, which the Senate and the House of Reps and so on could not solve. And the acting president thing was solved by me. Obasanjo knows that. So I wrote that paper. It was a legal paper. I wrote it as I had to order one book from England. It's called Ogoewo and Thatcher. It's about it's about coup during democratic regimes. So I used that reference, and all this doctrine of necessity, doctrine of this, doctrine of that. There are 3 doctrines. I wrote in that paper for Obasanjo, which he will tell you that succeeded in solving the problem when Yaradua was getting ill and he, met his untimely death. So those are 2 legal things. The state always gives me the copies of the highest point there, the latest copies of the laws of Oyo State. I'm always given, and they call me to meetings in the Ministry of Justice. Sometimes I'm chairman. And the inspiration comes from, I'm not a Lord Denning, but this inspiration comes from Lord Denning, who took a first-class honors degree in Oxford in mathematics and then in law. A first-class honors also in law. And he died at 101, master of the rolls, with very many famous cases in law. The High Trees case, McFoy versus UAC, the Turban Sick Boy, and so on. Dowland Lee, and so many cases. When he died, I collected all the English newspapers and their editorials on him and gave them to a friend, Kushamatu, who was the head of the NRC then. Kushamatu should have been my attorney general, but he was very extremely brilliant, but he had spent only 8 years at the bar, and you needed 10 to be attorney general. For Mikirun, he was a brilliant man, scintillatingly brilliant, and he was the president of the NRC. Penultimate government before the one immediately before Makinde was the worst that we could have by way of corruption, unspeakable escalation of fraud, and a few words I know for the wise. I've never seen anything so dastardly and so brazen as we found. And so everybody was tired, and we are now looking forward to Makinde. I hope he will not disappoint us in righting the wrongs of the past. Some of the governors were misunderstood and misevaluated. I think Akala did much better than people were ready to accord him. I think he did much better than he was assessed at. It has turned out that he was more humane and more innocent than what followed him. So, you cannot say anybody was more knowledgeable than Ladoja. He was given a baptism of fire by false impeachment and so on. But all the same, he is a man of very great knowledge and experience of life, and international also. Lam was devoted to his people. Lam had this unforgettable encounter with Buhari and Marwa when they came to complain about the treatment given. He sent them out of his office very nearly less than politely. That, they can't be coming and eating up people's farms when they are just in the gestating, the maize, the peas, the beans, and so on. When they are just growing fresh, before they develop any tassels or anything, any seeds, they eat them up. They destroyed Adigun's farm. They destroyed, what do you call it, Olufala's farm. Those are just examples. Anybody trying to do farming on a large scale find is at the mercy of these herdsmen and so on. And it puts a strain. It's true that, a lot of certain products like livestock come from the north, and tomato, onions, and so on, and pepper come from the north, and also here we have cocoa, which we have ignored. It's only in the Dare area that there has been a revival, and Akure and so on. But we have a lot to do to return to agriculture in a very serious way. I don't know what can be done about this, but we have to go back. Even the petroleum, hydrocarbons, and so on, they are losing their importance because there are new technologies. Cars are going to be run with batteries and so on, and there is going to be an end to oil. There are many things, which Awolowo inspired. Being the first in Africa in television, getting a standard stadium. If the Federal didn't have a good stadium, Lagos had no stadium compared with the Liberty Stadium, television, first in Africa. So we wanted to find out what we could do. We started a bus system. We started the environmental sanitation. We started the yellow fever in the police. We introduced that here too. And all these things. When they seized the Liberty Stadium, we had the Lekan Salami done by Bola Ige. When they seized the television, we had NTA, we had BCOS. So we had never stopped making progress in this part of the country. That's why some people think that maybe if each state goes its own way, we will make the necessary progress. But politics among the Yorubas is another problem. Yorubas never, they never really unite very easily. There are instances where you can criticize the Yorubas. In this book, Awo, on page 166 of this book, I would like to read, to maybe end up by reading something from this. Page 166, Awo, autobiography. The Yorubas were a highly progressive but badly disunited group. They paid lip service to a spiritual union and affinity in a common ancestor, Oduduwa. But in all their long history, they had waged wars against one another. When the Portuguese and the British had visited their coast in the course of their slave trade, the Yorubas had shown no qualms of conscience in conducting violent and merciless slave raids on one another. These intertribal wars and slave raids had come to an end under the so-called Pax Britannica, but the mutual hatred and acerbity which were attendant on them lingered. Furthermore, the propaganda of Dr. Azikwe was already having a deleterious effect on the once dynamic group. The Yorubas now indulge in mutual recrimination and condemnation. The younger elements thought that the Yorubas were inferior to the go-ahead Igbo people, and that whatever might be their past glories, they had become effete and decadent. To cap it all, it was freely bandied about that the Yorubas were no longer capable of leadership in any sphere of life. I thought that it was in the best interest of Nigeria that the Yorubas should not be reduced to a state of impotence into which they were fast degenerating. They had something that was all their own to contribute to the common pool of Nigerian nationalism and nationhood. I decided, therefore, to do all in my power to infuse solidarity into the disjointed tribes that constitute the Yoruba ethnic group, to raise their morale, to rehabilitate their self-respect, and to imbue them with the confidence that they are an important factor in the forging of the federal unity of Nigeria. I don't think it can be gainsaid that there's too much ethnicity, and in this country now, there's too much ethnicity and parochialism. I even hear some Yorubas say they are being shortchanged and so on. I don't know. Maybe the Hausa Fulani, the Fulanis and the Hausas, and Fulani especially, they have more than their fair share of things. But there's a tribe, which is the Igbos, who I think are seriously shortchanged. Somebody should come out and speak the truth about Igbos. They are being shortchanged on a comprehensive scale, even more than the Yorubas. The people in the Delta, I mean the South, they've had Dr. Jonathan, and so I think the Northeast, the Southeast, the people there are shortchanged. You remember people who have served Nigeria very well, like Danjuma, like the Chiromas. You know, their areas they are shortchanged. A friend of mine, Dr. Musuro, is already doing some research on this. We have to look very carefully at the history of the educational system in the country. This is where we can be of great use to Governor Seyi Makinde. We have to take the history from the pre-colonial period and then go to the colonial period, go to the first indigenous government, free primary education, and the difficulties that attended the launching of the thing. I just wrote the position paper. Awolowo was the head of the government. Awokoya was the first minister. And the expert on teacher training was the head of the Oxford University Press, Reverend Titi Sholaru. So the teacher training, the primary education, the first review of primary education was by Chief Banjo, did the first review. Ajikin Banjo, and this is a report of the commission appointed to review the educational system of Western Nigeria, 1960. There was one in 1968 when I was commissioner too. There was one after. You see, Chief the Reverend Kanu S.A. Banjo, Mrs. F.A. Ogunsheye was Miss Banjo, Reverend Edeki, Femi Oyewole, pair of twins, Professor Dobinson, Chief J.O. Ojo, Mr. Lacey. This is 1960, 61. You see, introduction to the terms of reference, recommendations. One has to Banjo report. One has to go then Oguncheye. You have to go through all the reports. You have to go through teacher training. We have all this documentation. We have all this documentation in our hands, and we can help the young man, tell him how we got to where we are, so that can know where he can take the thing from. He can know where he can take the thing. So it's a long history, and we know the history, and we know the documentation where they can be got. No, they are always looking for new names. The current one is restructuring. Previously, it was the Constitution, and the Constitution was not good. They changed it. They have confabs, 1, 2, and 3. They have the people grumble so much about Nigeria, and something is wrong with Nigerians. It's not with Nigeria. Other countries in the world are making progress. They are making progress even under difficult circumstances. We had people who knew a lot about virology, like Tam David West, like Oba Chansi, who was in VOM. We had people who are very knowledgeable in all fields, Sir Samuel Manua, all sorts of people who are Ladipo Akinkugbe we lost during the year. So it's not we have tried civilian government, we've tried military government, we've tried military people being converted to civilian. We've tried all militaryocracy, we've tried all sorts of things. Babangida performed several experiments, and eventually, we are still where we are. We shouldn't be where we are. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. At the first coming, he put an incompetent Attorney General, Chike Ofodele, who got a third class or a pass in law in England as the Attorney General. They were backdating death sentences for drug peddling and so on. They were acting, and then Decree 4, they were acting undemocratically. I don't think a leopard can change his spots. They are still behaving on, the way they hounded some judges out of the top Onoge and so on. The way they are behaving very undemocratically is still the same, and they are too tired and they are too old. I think that younger people who are not necessarily just because of youth, younger people who are inspired should be allowed to rule this country. Some governors are up to 70 years and so on before they either die or they leave office. This is kind of nonsense should come to an end. Even 50 is too old for some positions in this country. They should begin to get into these positions at 40. And so I think that it is a great pity that this country was in a much better position. And there are some people who forecast this thing. During the independence, there was a drama competition, and Soyinka wrote a play, The Dance of the Forest, A Dance of the Forest, which all Nigerians should go and read again and see how potentious is, Kongi's harvest and all these things. The people should go and read these things and see whether they are really making progress or they are just beating about the bush.